Congratulations on starting flight training. Let's talk about your first ground reference maneuver, rectangular course. You may be looking at rectangular course thinking that this is easy and doesn't relate to anything that you're going to do later on in your training, but it's actually perfect practice for practicing patterns around an airport. The whole point of rectangular course is to how to get the aircraft to fly in a straight line. We understand that when you put like a boat on the water, once it starts moving, if there's any kind of current, it's going to be moving along with that current. The same thing applies to airplanes. So let's get into Microsoft Flight Sim and show you how to do it and what it's all about. And here we are in Microsoft Flight Sim, getting ready to do these ground reference maneuvers, this rectangular course. We are in a Cessna 172 equipped with a G1000, and we're going to be using these two green fields as our rectangular reference, the lighter one and the darker one, the set of two of them, right? We want our field to be big enough to make it reasonable for us to actually make these turns without cranking the airplane all the way over to 60 degrees, but not so big that we spend 30 minutes cruising along in a straight line. But as I said, the point of these maneuvers is for you to practice flying a straight line. I know, it sounds super riveting, but once we get wind into account, where I've got a wind coming from the west right now, when we have a wind taken into account, it makes it more difficult. So here we are going straight into the wind, and as you can see, the airplane is just flying straight along. The nose is pointing west because the wind is coming straight at the airplane. There's nothing pushing it to the left, to the right. There's no need to make any real adjustments. The airplane's going straight. Now, as we come through our first turn, when we finish it, the wind is now going to be coming off of our right from the west, which means we're going to have a little bit of a crab angle. As you can see, comparing it to the road, the railway tracks, or whatever that is down there, we're a little cattywampus to the right, making it so that we're kind of sliding through, a little bit of Tokyo drift through the air so that we are tracking a straight line. Now, as we come along and we get into the next turn, our ground speed is going to be increasing, and we're going to have to increase our bank so that we can keep our turn radius the same as on the other turn, right? So we're cranking out a little bit more bank, a little bit more bank. I think we had to go all the way to about 35 degrees of bank to accomplish this turn and ended up just slightly too far. I should have started turning sooner. I should have had more bank in to compensate, but now that we're here, we've not got any crab angle. But look how fast we're moving across the ground. This is what we're practicing in rectangular course, or in a lot of ground reference maneuvers. How does the wind impact the airplane? And you may be thinking, what the hell does this have to do with anything I'm ever gonna learn? This isn't landing, this isn't taking off, this isn't steep turns, this isn't, you know, all the fun stuff I really wanted to do when I signed up for flight training. This helps you fly a perfect pattern around an airport. And luckily enough, we've got an airport just right there next to the fields that we were using. So let's apply everything we just learned. Right now, we've got the wind coming from the west off of our left. So we've got a little bit of a crab angle. Now we're going to start reducing some power, add some flaps in so that we can start descending so that we can get down to this airport. Now, when we make this first turn, we're going to have a headwind. The aircraft is going to start slowing down. We're going to need to compensate for that. All right. Our descent rate, if it stays the same, we're going to end up going too low in too short of a distance. So we need to make adjustments for how the wind is impacting the airplane. That's why we want to have our ground reference maneuvers down pat, perfect, almost like second nature before we ever start talking about flying in the pattern or doing any landings. Because if you're still struggling with tracking a straight line, how hard do you think it is going to be for you to, I don't know, land the airplane if you're struggling just to keep it pointed in the right direction? So here we are lined up on the runway, and you can see how drastic that crab angle is, that Tokyo drift, that slip, whatever you want to call it at this point. It's pretty drastic. It might have been a little too much. As you can see, I got a little bit to the right of the runway. But That's really why we want to practice our ground reference maneuvers before we ever get into landings, because I don't want to have to explain, or you don't want to have to think about how to track a straight line while you're also trying to figure out how to land an airplane. Now, sims are hard to control. Ignore what happens next. If you've already perfected all of your ground reference maneuvers and you're ready for your next check ride and you just want a little double check before you'll go in for it, make sure you go check out the links where you can find them for your opportunity for a mock check ride.